Yeah, here we are. Good evening. Welcome, people who are with us live and people who are going to watch later. Welcome. This is our last session before Helen and I, my Helen, take a break. So, no session next week. I've kind of given you lots of cues over the past few weeks. I'll put a post in the WhatsApp as well. So, you've got a free pass for next week to do what you like. And then we're back the following week, which is the Monday, Thursday, if I remember rightly, because we're approaching Easter at a rapid rate. So we'll be having a session on that Thursday before the Easter weekend. So I think that's it in terms of news. Shall we get started? So seated, standing, entirely up to you. Do a mix of both. And as I speak, here comes Richard. I'm going to let him in. And we'll get started. I'm going to do 8 strands of brocade this evening. I'll just say hello, Richard, as you get yourself in, Richard.
Hello.
Hello. If you can pop yourself on mute, that would be great, as we're just about to get started. Join in when you can. So 2 hands hold the sky. So let's just get started. Very easy. Lifting the palms, pushing overhead, and then just letting the hands free fall on the way down. So let's just get that 2 or 3 times. First of all, just focus on that movement as we do so. Okay, so if you wish, we can have a big breath in as we lift the hands. And then we just let that breath go, almost like a sigh as we drop the hands down. And you might do that 1 or 2 times. And then just return to just breathing comfortably. It's all optional. It's up to you how you feel. But if you want to do a few breaths with the movement, then fit them in. Okay. Just have a little rest. We're going to return to that. I know it's somewhat ironic for me to, as someone who wears a lower limb prosthetic along with other people, to say, I want you to keep in touch with your feet. But that's kind of what I'm asking, that we kind of keep some awareness with our contact with the ground. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So whether we're seated or standing, regardless of the movement that we're doing, try to have a bit of your awareness or focus kind of maintained on this contact. Oh, here we go. We've got someone else to join us. It's Van. Let me let her in. Excuse me for these little breaks. So keep this contact in mind. So let's return to our 2 hands hold the sky movement, but keep sense of contact with either our seat or with our feet. So you guys keep going. I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted. There we go. Just helps. Fab. Let me join you for one more. So that's a good start. Okay. So now, next movement, wider stance. We've got even more people. See, there you go. I was thinking we wouldn't have many people. We've got more people joining us. Okay. Wider stance, if we can. If you sat down, try to have this sense that you're growing up from your seat. Try not to use the back of a chair if you can avoid to do so. So we're going to cross our hands. Let's have our right hand on the outside of our left hand, and we're going to draw an imaginary bow and arrow looking to the left. And then we release that arrow and we extend that hand, the right hand, and then we let both hands drop, and then we pick up and we're crossing the left over the right this time as we look to the right and draw our bow. And again, a smooth release of our imaginary arrow. Try to have an aim in mind or a target as we go from one side smoothly and then to the other side, drawing our imaginary bow, tuning into the shoulders and the chest. Maybe a breath in at certain points and a breath out maybe as we let the arrow fly. And again, we're keeping a sense of contact with our feet or with the ground through our seat, but we're keeping a little bit of our awareness or focus on the ground or on the earth if we want to be more specific, because that's the bigger body in the equation. We'll go once more to each side. Just exploring the movement as we do so. Last one. Fab. Just have a little movement. And then next movement, let me come a little bit closer. We're holding a beach ball. It's called it's not called two hands. It's called parting the earth from the sky. We've got the bottom hand. It's going to come up just like we did in two hands hold the sky. But this other hand is pushing down and we create this S shape. If I turn to the camera and then we turn the palms, bring them back together until we hold our beach ball. Only we've swapped hands. And then once again, turn the top hand over, press, push, and then bring the hands back together. So we've got this alternation between expansion and then contraction. So you could say we've got a dynamic of yin-yang going on. The yang aspect is this expansion, and the yin aspect is the contraction. Another way to think about this is that every time we expand, we also grow a little. It's as if our spine is encouraged to lengthen, and then we just relax back. And then we do that once more with another sense of lengthening. I know my top hand is disappearing, but it doesn't matter too much. Could have a breath in with the push, and then a breath out as we return to that beach ball. And then again, another big breath in. And again, every time we think about the breath and the letting go, we're also thinking about that quality of letting go called sung. That's kind of connected with our emotions and cognitively as well. So we're purposefully letting go the stresses of the day, and we're kind of getting settled into the evening. I'm going to do one more. Don't worry if we're in sync or out of sync. We'll just do one more. Fab. And then let the hands go. And again, maybe just have a gentle little shake and a move. And we'll come to our fourth movement. Wise owl. We'll do this in a number of variations. Now I'm going to bring my box in and join people who are seated just to do so. If you're standing, keep standing. Rotation, really important. So let's do our first variation, the simplest one, where we're just turning to the right. And just gently lifting the palms. They don't have to be lifted very much. And then we just turn back to the center. And then we do the same on the left side. Lends itself nicely to a breath in as you turn, and a breath out once again as we come back to the center. If that fits with you, then build it in as you wish. Again, we're keeping some focus on our connection with the ground or with the earth, via our feet or via our seat. And we're just easily turning. Okay, have a little pause. A little progression in this movement or variation is that both hands gesture in the same direction as we turn. So if I'm turning to my right, my left hand joins in with the right hand to gesture in that direction. And then I do the same. When I turn to the left, it's the right hand kind of supporting the left hand in that gesture. It's almost as if someone's asked you some directions and you're gesturing where they might be going. So again, that might just give you a little bit more rotation. You might feel it a little bit more in the shoulders, more in the thoracic spine, as they say. So again, don't turn it into a stretch, just explore the range of motion that you have, just by utilizing that slight variation. I'll do one more to this right side. And then one more to the left side. So there we go. Halfway through our 8 strands of brocade, 4 movements. I ought to say, just by way of a little intermission, you don't have to do all 8 movements. You can do as many or as little as you like. You can pick your favorites. That's how it used to be done, kind of before things got standardized and what have you. So feel free, you've got permission to pick favorite movements or utilize them in different ways, maybe throughout the day, to give you some breaks. So here we go. I'm going to rejoin people who are standing for our 5th movement called sway the head. So we need a wider stance if we're standing up, or as wide as you can feel comfortable doing. We're having our hands on our hips. Again, if we're sat down, just need to be mindful of things around us. And when it's as if we're ducking under something, we don't want that thing to be too low, because that would entail having to duck very low. So start off at a reasonable height. It might only be very slight. I turn to the right, and then I have a little duck under, maybe an imaginary rope. And I pop up on the other side, and then I go back the way I came, just like so. It's a bit of a balance challenge. So we've got to be mindful of how we control our movement of the torso in relation, again, to that contact with the ground. And just begin to ease yourself into that notion of being able to sweep the head and the torso from one side and then to the other. Again, we're not looking to get super deep in any of these positions. Again, the focus is always on being able to maintain some stability and balance and to move comfortably within a range of motion that suits us, not anyone else. Okay, I'm going to do one more to each side again. Don't be concerned with whether we're in sync or not. Just stick within your movement pattern. But I'm going to come back up. And again, I'm just going to ease myself out of that position, have a little move. So quite challenging. Second movement in this second half, sorry. So the sixth movement is, again, another hip hinge movement where we're bending forward. So again, same kind of provisos of not going too far too soon, staying in a comfortable range. We start off though by lifting or imagining that a box rises up, and then we bring our hands on top to stop it from getting away, and we push it back down to earth. And then the hands leave our box and they come onto the backs of the thighs. If you sat down, sides of the thighs. And then I'm just taking a bow is probably the best way to put it. And you don't have to go too far. The hands travel down the legs over onto the fronts. And then we just come back upright again, bringing the hands with us. That's the movement. It's called hold the toes, but again, we don't have to overly reach just to get down to our toes. I can't do that. Down we go again. Might start off with the knees. And we're just, again, exploring range of motion more than anything. It's a process of exploration or discovery. And we're kind of exploring this movement. How does it feel? Is a good question. How comfortable am I in that range? And sometimes it's just worth just sticking within a very comfortable range and just allowing range of motion to come almost by itself without even trying. Simply because we stay, say, within 70% of what we might be able to do. But we seem to just get a little bit lower as a consequence of not overstretching, first of all. I'm going to suggest we do one more. And down we come. And back up again. Okay. So, penultimate movement. And it's called different things. Sometimes it's called stare fiercely. We prefer to call it pull the boat because that's more analogous with the movement pattern that we've got. And once again, I'll bring in my box and sit down to join people seated. So we're going to imagine that we're going to pull a boat. If you're standing up, you might want to have a wider stance because you're going to need to brace a bit. If we're sat down, we're going to need to brace a bit in our seat. It's useful to kind of picture ourselves beside some water. Could be a lake, could be a seaside, wherever you can envisage, maybe somewhere that's familiar or that you can bring to mind. And then we're tucking the hands and arms in. And then we're reaching out for our rope that's attached to our boat that's further out. We take a wrap around that rope to get a firm grip, and we begin to draw that rope and the boat towards us. And we just take alternate wraps and pulls as we do so. And we're rolling the shoulders as far as we can along our rope so that we get as long a pull as we can. All the while, we're trying to have this smooth, continuous tension on our imaginary rope. We don't want slack to come into that rope. We want to just bring that boat smoothly across the water towards the shore. And the more you can picture the scene in which you find yourselves, so much the better. Again, you're getting a nice long stretch through the shoulders if you really reach. That's it. And we can just breathe easy with the movement as we do so. So I'm going to suggest 2 more pulls, 1 for each arm. So this is the second to last pull or penultimate pull. And here's the last one. Bring your boat carefully into shore. Try not to bump it into anything. And then just relax. Fab. So, next movement. We're going to be a little bit crafty here because it's a tricky movement for people with lower limb loss in particular, because it requires standing up on our toes, which I don't think they've created a prosthetic foot or limb that facilitates that, as far as I'm aware. And anyone know if there's a ballet type prosthetic? There might be. But so we're going to swap it out, and we're going to do something from the Shibashi set to kind of take its place. So I'm going to suggest we do, let's carry the moon to the earth. Let's do that. That's a nice one. So quite dynamic, demands a little bit from us. We're going to imagine that the full moon is up above us to the right. So we've got to kind of shift our weight a bit to that side, and we're going to embrace that moon as we do so. So I get some weight shift, and then I bring that moon to the center and lower it down gently to the earth. We kind of end up in a ballet position, don't we? And then the same on the left. Let's imagine the moon is up on the left side. I shift some weight, bring that moon up and round and then down. If we were thinking of ballet, it would be the equivalent of catching as I go to the right. A ballerina, as she leaps in the air, and then I bring her gently down, like so. So that might be a vision as I go from one side to the other. Really works on trunk stability. You can feel whether we're seated or standing, just that notion of reaching up very high to bring something down to earth actually demands a lot. That's kind of stuff that we have to do in day-to-day life. Get things down from overhead cupboards without falling over. So maybe this is a good movement to facilitate that task. Okay, I'm going to do one more on each side. Fab. Last one. Excellent. There you go. 8 strands of brocade with some variations thrown in for good measure. As I said, we don't have to do all the 8 movements all in the same order. In fact, you could pick and choose and do all the movements at random if you wish, or as I said, just pick out your favorites and maybe build them into your day as little movement breaks or movement snacks. So, to round off the session, again, let me join people seated. And we'll do our little 2-sequence Tai Chi form. gather celestial energy and gather Earth's energy. So before we get started, again, see if you can re-establish this contact with the ground. Again, whether we're seated or standing, try and have this sense that we are actually balanced. There's three main ways in which we balance. We've got our eyes, our vision. We've got the inner ear, the vestibular system, and then we've got all of this. It's called proprioceptive feedback from sensors or nerve endings throughout the body, in the joints, in the muscles, in the skin, that all help us understand where we are in time and space. The classic way to test this is to close your eyes and see if you can touch your nose. There you go, I managed it. Again, we don't necessarily need to see in order to understand where we are in time and space. And if we get any disruption to any of those systems, visual, inner ear, or proprioceptive, then it can have an impact to our balance. So limb loss in itself, whether we lose a limb or you lose the use of a limb, has this disruptive effect on balance for a number of reasons. So it's useful to have a bit of a focus on this idea of kind of mindful or purposeful balance as we move. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. We're going to bring the hands up, just rest them on a table, and then look up to a night sky overhead. Lots of stars, and bring some stars down to earth. Slowly down. And then we sweep the hands around, we gather up those stars. Hold on to them for a moment, and then let them go. Let them fly off into the world. And then we lift the hands, arms out to the sides, and we take the blanket of the earth, as we call it, and we wrap ourselves in that blanket. So now we really are well and truly ensconced in the earth. But then we have to let that go as well. It's in the letting go that we get to go again. So here we go. Gather celestial energy. Look up to the starry sky above. Bring some stars down. Slowly, gently. And then begin to sweep the hands around to gather up those stars. Hang on to them for a moment and then let them go. As we then reach up for our blanket of the earth, gather Earth's energy, it's called. We wrap ourselves in that blanket one last time. Maybe a breath in, and as we let the breath go, we can just let the hands go. And just come to a rest. So there we go. That's it for this evening. Hopefully that recording will get put up on the playlist for the Limb Power YouTube channel. You can find a whole library of previous sessions up there. So even though we won't be back live next week, you do have a library of videos to go at if you do want to get your Tai Chi fix. So we'll be back, as I said, on Monday, Thursday, the Thursday before the Easter weekend. So I look forward to seeing you there. If you've got any questions or comments and you want to hang on and ask anything at the end of this, just let me close the recording. But I appreciate if you want to just get off, you can give me a wave and I will hopefully see you next time. Let's hit the